Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today it's a big one, the long-awaited comeback album from Clipse, Let God Sort 'Em Out. The odd thing about Clipse is that there's both more and less to say than one might think. On the one hand, Pusha T has done a remarkable job keeping the name and legend alive through his solo albums, especially whenever Malice slips in guest verses of his own to prove that he can often beat Push at his own game. And with both Lord Willing and Hell Hath No Fury aging impeccably well, the latter of which might just be the best album of 2006, and the competition is tight for that spot, along with their 2000s mixtape series, they built the sort of legacy that's kinda perfect for the 2000s nostalgia window, especially with peak Neptune's production. We just don't talk about Till the Casket Drops for everyone's sake. And when you have MCs of this caliber, even reaching middle age, it's hard not to read double and triple meanings in everything they say, especially given Push's explosive conflicts with Lil Wayne, Drake, and in recent years, Jim Jones, Kanye West, and Travis Scott. And yet at the same time, for me, it's hard not to hear those conflicts and see a remarkable clarity and damn near simplicity, a commitment to standing on business that's so robust that for some used to wearing the mask, it becomes impossible to fathom. Indeed, one observation I've long had that there's something close to traditional conservatism in how Clipse operates, even beyond Malice's religious grounding. And also keep in mind, conservatism is very different than modern US republicanism. The sort of hardline, patriarchal, capitalist, and hierarchical structure held with such tenacity and ruthlessness, where their contempt for those who cut corners or attempt to cheat the system, it's reminiscent of what was held for oath breakers and traitors to a cause. Not a lack of understanding of how the world works, but this plain-spoken acceptance of the grim, brutal reality to play within the system without sacrificing one's word or bond, even if you might wind up damned for doing so. And with all that established, and the acknowledgement that of course you can recognize the political coding of art and still enjoy it, especially if you key into what has resonance for yourself with any deeper level of introspection, of course I was excited to hear a new Clipse album. Even if the lack of Chad Hugo alongside Pharrell on production did leave me with some pause. Pharrell's record has been inconsistent to say the least the past couple of years, and while he normally saves his best work for Clipse, even going back to It's Almost Dry, I wouldn't say I loved everything he delivered, and thus, with one of the most hyped rap albums of 2025, despite every machination from other industry corners in order to supplant or challenge them, including from Def Jam with that Justin Bieber thing that dropped from out of nowhere, well, it's a Clipse album, where the reality that it's familiar and feels almost immediately great, it's both its greatest strength and greatest weakness. I don't need to go into a lot of details around the pedigree of Malice and Pusha T as MCs, who set up the sharply scathing bars rife with cocaine dealing, where the adage isn't so much bragging more as it is bragging better. It's already a meme, the contempt that Pusha T has for those with the money who do not cultivate good taste, be worthy of their money, or those who are irresponsible with the power that they do have. And given the struggle up the ladder that both men have faced, with Malice's juxtaposition with religion highlighting how much he believes they might be damned for what they do, there is some weight to that venom, and he wants to take on all of it. And they establish the emotional stakes very early. On the bleak yet soulful opener, The Birds Don't Sing, with John Legend handling the hook off the pianos, they go into detail about the loss of their parents, and how that sets up the stage for a very grimy reunion, and where success kind of as its own mission statement becomes heightened. The album might on some level be a victory lap for the two of them doing what they do, but they care a little bit more about it proving that Clipse is still relevant and vital, that they can even play the commercial game in the modern era with their content and win, bucking against Pusha T's own long-held belief that there might be a ceiling on this content. And from there, several decisions the duo make, they wind up clicking very fast. Of course, the big name Kendrick Lamar and Tyler the Creator features are huge and front-loaded and legit awesome. Chains and Whips with that killer bluesy swagger in the guitar, and P.O.V with the uncanny fizzy synths against the faded knock of the beat. And then Abliva is here on Inglorious Bastards for the Day One fans. Nas basically hijacks the title track Chandeliers to do his thing, where if they did get a Jay-Z verse, they might be saving it for the remix game. And well, some of us might want a Stove God Cooks verse. I actually really liked his low-key menace around the sandy, crushing rumble of F.I.C.O. And of course, there are multiple songs here that feel streamlined in order to play more on short-form platforms like TikTok. Not my preference, I wanted the keening G-funk gospel of E.B.I.T.D.A and Ace Trumpets to run a little bit longer, and I must admit, for as many teasing shots were thrown in other rappers' direction, I would have preferred more than just the infrared. But Push also knows how to keep the spotlight on them, drive every little bit of added discourse online and otherwise, where every punch-in of "this is culturally inappropriate" is designed to keep your attention and ask you why with the bars around it. Push is gonna drag you into the very human, tabloid-adjacent muck, and then Malice will beat your ass and then hide the Bible if God watching. And I bring all this up because, well, the mixtapes Lord Willing and Hell Hath No Fury were establishing their legacy, this is more reinforcement than expanding upon it. I don't agree with Push saying his formula has a lower ceiling, but I often found myself wishing there was a little more human depth, not just to add more character for them both, but also heighten the stakes as older family men who face anticipation from their fans, but also new enemies and conflict. The old game is probably gonna work, they inevitably can rest a bit on legacy, but I wanted to hear more from behind the curtain. And while I appreciate Pusha T referencing his wife having a miscarriage as they try for another kid on All Things Considered, or how Malice's relief at survival lingers on the closer By the Grace of God, a few more glimpses, a little more of that humanity, and it could at least just add variety to the track list. And yet the person who should be able to rest on legacy and probably can't with this album after this, Pharrell, where even if his thin auto-tune voice wasn't powerful, I actually didn't mind his hooks on the album. No, for as many double entendres were made on being blown out, I sure as hell didn't want it to translate to the mixing and mastering here. It's so tightly compressed and loud around the vocal leads and some of the percussion that on the one hand I'm reminded of 2000s mixtape era Clipse nostalgia, but if you're going to embrace so much theatrical bombast in your melody, even if you're trying to sound as grisly and urgent as possible, the inconsistent dynamics and occasionally bricked out mix were really frustrating for me. As much polish as the Indian sample loop against the whirring knock of So Be It has, compared to the scrappy discordance of Mike Tyson blows to the face and the jingling squonking of Inglorious Bastards, the shifts in fidelity track to track feels kind of unnecessarily distracting, and the songs with cleaner pickups not matching the visceral knock kind of wind up being caught in the middle, like So Far Ahead in the title track. In fact, after an incredibly strong start, the album sequencing feels weirdly inconclusive in the final third, and while the closing track By the Grace of God is overall pretty strong in the summation of themes, it also feels rather abortive. The album could have gone longer, but as a whole, look, how much of this album works in both execution and metatext is how invested you are in Clipse's legacy and relevance in mainstream hip-hop. Because not only are they giving you precisely what you would expect, but also operating on that truth being self-evident through their veteran execution. And I gotta be honest, I'm kind of on the fence whether that's truly enough, especially in comparison with a project like It's Almost Dry, where the themes did aim higher. And if we're gonna focus on veteran execution and the whole family of them together, a lot of Pharrell's inconsistencies are as much of a detracting factor. Maybe it's an issue of him trying to merge high fashion opulence with the visceral grit that Clipse includes in their bars, or maybe just not having the other voice in the room to push back on his questionable instincts the way he would have, I don't know, 20 years ago with the Neptunes. Either way, on performance, sharp bars, and great guest features on the best songs here, I can say it reaches greatness. It's not the best nor the most forward-thinking hip-hop album of 2025, arguably one that could have been effective at, quite frankly, any point the past decade, but the floor is so high that it's hard not to praise it, even if I think it's going to wind up a little overhyped by those who won't bother to delve into better material in the underground. It's kind of the equivalent of a summer blockbuster. It's not going to blow your mind, pun intended, but it'll secure the legacy and leave one hell of a high. That's hard to turn down. Give it a shot. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yeah, this was a bit of a lot to get through. I'll admit this is a bit later than I wanted to, but again, the next couple of weeks are going to be very tough on me and my schedule. You're going to see some changes on the backdrop because I will be moving soon, but again, as all of it comes, I did want to make sure this review got out. Leave your thoughts down below, especially if you're diehard Clipse fans. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get involved in helping support the channel, get albums on my schedule, or just yell at me on my Discord, link to YouTube memberships and Patreon are right over there. Don't feel obligated. Tough times out there. The option's available, though. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.